Brendan Schaub. What an asshole. What a fucking idiot. I mean, how did this guy really get where he got, I don't get it. I mean, he had his own stand-up thing and all that stuff, but as I understand, he didn't do so well. And yeah, that's simply because he's a moron. I mean, I see people giving credit for being intelligent. I don't see that. I mean, maybe he's not that stupid in all departments, but come on, when you talk about stuff, basically what he did, I did, I first read about this podcast. I mean, one of his and the other stupid asshole, Brian Cullen, or whatever his name is. So once Brandon was talking, he was giving him one of his tough guy stories, how just to show just how fucking badass he is. He always was. He was talking about when he was on the football team, I believe, in college. So he was living with this guy who was in his team. And you know the story. I think most of you who have followed stuff about this guy know that what he did was basically he ate that his roommate's food. He wouldn't pay for his own, so he took his own roommate's food. That's really. And then when he started putting his name labels on everything, then he just got even more assholish, and he just kept taking all his food, but he would leave it, he would leave it back. He would put it back, only the empty boxes, like with the name tag still on. It was like, fuck you for putting on your name tags on your own food. Like, so he's trying to make this guy look like an asshole for actually trying to, protect his own food that he bought with his own money, like to keep him from eating up everything. So what he did, he mooched food from his roommate without ever paying him, without ever offering to pay him a dime, for it. He stole food, you might say. He was like a parasite. And then when a roommate called his mother, and because he obviously didn't want to I guess he knew what a bully Brandon was. So he knew that he wouldn't get anywhere by confronting him himself. So he called his mother, and he made her say that he made her give Brandon a talking to. So she's basically told him, you have to pay back my son for all the food that you took from him, and you must apologize. And so like any decent mother would do, like any mother that cares about her son. Some bitch or mother would have not cared. She would just said, oh, whatever, you should have done something yourself to protect. Like what? Like, put a dog or something to guard his own food, like. So anyway, so he tells the asshole Brandon, he tells his mother to get the fuck out of here. But he says it was just to make the guy fight him. I don't believe that. It was simply because he's an asshole. So he says that, and you know his how do you call it, his cheerleader Brian Cullen was like, oh yeah, yeah, that's good, like, yeah, he's getting like all fired up, all like, you know ecstatic over it. And then what he did was, later that guy, I didn't quite get that part because he sometimes tends to talk too fast, that guy. But I understand they were sharing at the parking lot or something. I don't know. So that guy parked his own bike, there. Like that's some crime. And then you know, his girlfriend wasn't able to park her car there. I mean, his girlfriend, it wasn't even his car. And it got, like mugged or something, broken into. Because she had to park on the other side where it was easier to rob it. So he gets so angry about that, of course, all pissed, and he goes and like spits at the guy to make him fight him once again, but the guy would still not fight him, you know, and that was a mistake. He should have done that because Schaub said that he was bigger than himself and older and all that. So maybe he could have kicked Schaub's ass, maybe. So anyway, they were on the same team, right? So who would want to fight a guy? And they were roommates, like. Who would want to fight with a guy who is your roommate and a teammate? Come on, it's like very stupid thing to do. But that's what Brandon is. He's such a stupid asshole. So he then spits at him and then he shoves him through a glass door, just pushes him. And then the cops, he called cops, of course, the guy, and so and then there was some guy who was writing, who watched that, who wrote that it was wrong of Brandon to do that stuff, to take the food and never pay for anything, and that fucking guy Colin, he was like, oh, maybe I don't like this guy so much. I mean, how do you get so fucking petty and pathetic, and then you have your own kind of show, whatever it is. I know it's some kind of shitty podcast, but still, I mean, these guys, the amount of assholes who have their own podcast in America is really, really appalling. I mean, it's like it's enough for you to have ever done something, some sort of athletic, kind of pursuit. It's enough if you had any kind of athletic career in the sports, in any kind, to get your own podcast and you get like 500,000 or something followers. Yeah, this is really what really bothers me and that really concerns me because there are young guys that don't know better. They are very young, like 16, 17. They look up to these guys like this fucking bully Brendan Schaub. They look up to him because he used to be in UFC, and even though his career wasn't very long, like 6 years, but he has a couple of victories, like that were kind of big. But that's all, like, and but they look up to him. They see, he's a successful, somewhat successful guy, and he talks the talk. He appears to be a cool guy who is like, I would say, a nice guy. Even when you see him at Joe Rogan's, he's always comes across, or almost always, as some sort of a decent guy. Like a really nice guy who is just you would think that he only uses his physical, I mean, fighting skills, in the ring, in the octagon. But no, I believe that's not the only case he's had where he's had, a physical altercation. But we'll leave it at that. I had the urge to take it up because I also thought he was a better guy than that. When I first saw him on Joe Rogan, and when it comes to Joe Rogan himself, I don't see why he would have a guy like him on the show constantly. It's like he is like his mentor, Joe Rogan, and he's trying to to build this guy up, which is very wrong, to give him more spotlight than he really deserves, as Ariel Helwani recently pointed out in his speech to Brendan, he was like, Brendan was like doing that shit that ex-fighters often do, like, oh, sports journalists are sports journalists are nobodies because they never been in a true fight. They don't, fight. And Joe Rogan was saying, oh, maybe he never fought in the octagon, but he still has a black belt in jiu-jitsu or whatever the fuck it was. Like, so, since the guy has a black belt in something, so that means he's a tougher, braver man than somebody who doesn't, you know. It's just bullshit, man. It's just bullshit. I mean, how do you know that somebody who is not has never trained any form of martial arts cannot be tough and good at street fighting? Because street fighting and martial arts are two different things, right? When it comes to street fighting, it's about being strong and tough, fighting dirty and all that stuff. When it comes to martial arts, it's more about what you have learned, or the skills, the technique, and all that. So there are rules in martial arts, and there are no rules in street fighting. So I know there have been cases when these guys who are like, MMA or whatever, kickboxer, when they got their asses kicked in a like a nightclub fight or something. There have been cases of that, definitely. So, I hate it when they talk like, you are nothing, you have never been in a ring, you have never been. I've had that in boxing also. There, I had guys like say to me, oh, how can you say anything? You've never been in a fight. Like, so that means I have known nothing about boxing, right? So, so Ariel was like, what have you really done? What have you really succeeded in? Nothing really, nothing. Not his stand up, not his football career, not his TV career. So the guy is a failure, and even his MMA career was like it ended really badly. He got a few really bad beatings, and when Joe Rogan was trying, I watched that intervention he had when he was saying to him, "You gotta, give it up. You are not." He was like making his face like really stupid. Like, what is he talking about? I don't know. Brendan Schaub is yeah, such a dickhead. Simply peace.